Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
And hello, welcome to another episode of the Plotaholics podcast. I am Shane Wilson, and that man over there is Brian Tan.
Yeah, and I'm born to raise hell.
And I have no witticisms for you today.
We're just keeping it straight and simple, 90s style.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. I guess I could say something about the hot sauce to my water pistol or something.
Hey, that'll work. I just won't be the Pip to your Rex.
No. Pip. So, Mr. Tan, this week we are turning the corner sort of toward the end of the Summer of Song.
Yeah.
And what a time it's been.
It has been a very interesting time. We've gotten some amazing films under our belt, some new favorites, some eyes rolled at a couple, but all in all, this has been a wacky fun ride, and we're just about at the end because next week is a bridge gapper to our Jack Black Timber.
Yeah, right.
But
and I'm sure we won't regret making that choice at all.
No, I don't think so at all. But I do think I feel like that this is kind of the final episode because, like I said, next week is sort of like the bridge gapper.
Yeah. So
we're getting like a little bit of both things in there.
Right.
So this feels like the finale of the summer to me. It really does.
Oh boy. Well,
this is a pretty good ending, at least in my opinion.
Oh well. I'll just say, be honest out of the gate. All right.
Okay.
I have very little conviction about this movie one way or the other.
That's hurtful.
It's fine. Like I love these actors so much. Like the cast is killer.
The cast is great, man. The cast is awesome.
It really is.
I think the only person in this film that kind of feels miscast is Joe Mantegna.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I would have been okay. Just work with me for a second.
Yeah.
What if David Arquette was Ian the Shark?
Yeah, I can get on board for that.
Or an older, I get Joe Mantegna's character, but this week's advertised content, by the way, is the 1994 comedy, the heavy metal comedy Airheads, starring Brenden Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and young Adam Sandler back when he gave a damn.
Yes.
As three musicians in the band The Lone Rangers that have decided to take over a radio station to get airplay for their demo.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. Now Joe Mantegna's character, I understand the character and I get why they chose him. He kind of looks like a guy he was really, really wild in his day. And then now he's disillusioned where his rebellion has gone to.
Yeah.
Because, in the 90s, you're probably too young to remember it. But I do recall, all the grown-ups that were, the post-60s rockers that were just completely disillusioned with where their movement sort of brought us. A lot of them were very disillusioned with the MTV era.
Right.
Of the 80s. And then when we got to the 90s, they just didn't get it and they hated it. So you got a lot of these these radio guys, Howard Stern was among them,
Yeah.
that kind of had this sort of love-hate relationship with pop culture as it was. And we saw those guys,
and
these guys just
especially
didn't get it.
KPPX is so clearly like a K-Rock type
It
station.
really is. It really is.
And, you know, it prides itself on being the rock station. But I mean, like, I think that there's some interesting stuff going on here in terms of the exact things that you're talking about, the changing sort of
the changing of the times, man, the
changing landscape in the music industry. It's especially, I think, telling that the format of the station is changing. And all at once as cool. Well.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. This movie is way more, it tells a lot more than what I think even at the time people realized.
Yeah.
You know, with radio stations becoming far more corporate, where you remember back in the day, man, radio was supposed to be like the last bastion of like real.
Yeah.
And now you look at iHeart, you look at Sirius, you look at radio now, and it's not radio anymore. It's just a bunch of conglomerates with the same crap. I'm serious. Like, I guarantee you, I have never lived in the Carolinas.
Right.
Just like you have not lived in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. But I guarantee you that our rock format is exactly the same. Our radio format. Like, you have a Bob FM or whatever where they just play everything. Sure. You have your classic rock station. You have your modern rock station. You have your sports talk station. And it's all, and then you've got a bunch of them that are iHeart.
Well, and sports talk is really just like syndicated ESPN shows, with the exception of like one or two local like college shows or whatever.
Ones. Well, you've got your local ones that, like here, we have 93.7 The Fan, which shout out to my good buddy Josh Taylor I went to high school with. He does some stuff on there, but of course, he's one of the more talented and intelligent sportscasters. So, of course, he doesn't get any regular airplay. But, you know, CBS sort of horns in on it. So, after the 6 o'clock guy shows up, it's all national CBS stuff.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. Then you hear the CBS stuff with, like, Jim Rome with his little pre-recorded stuff. Like, that's all radio markets are anymore. There was a point in time, man, when radio stations were independent of each other.
Yeah.
And they did their own thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the 90s, this is when you started to get the corporate makeover of broadcasting. And you even hear, like, part of the reason why these guys make this decision is because when they go to the record the record company, it's all about gimmicks. You know, these guys, the Lone Rangers, you know, eliminate the goofiness of the name for a second.
Yeah.
They're an old school type of band in a changing world, and they go to the one radio station that is supposed to be what they are about, and it's changing formats anyway. It's like,
and even before it changes formats, they still can't get in the door with their demo tapes the way that people could, like in movies that we've watched this summer. Like, there was a time when you were a local artist, you could just go in and drop a demo at the desk.
And if the guy liked it or whatever, then he give it play. He give it playtime, even just once.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do any of your rock stations have a block that's just for local musicians?
Yeah, local-ish. I mean, like, it's out of a bigger city, but we get it here.
And I guarantee you it's on like Sunday or like a day where people aren't listening to the radio, right?
For sure. Yeah. Well, also, I would just posit who's listening to the radio anytime. I think that's sort of the driving factor of all of this change anyway, right? Because what they know as capitalist, corporate-minded people is that these guys that are hanging out in this parking lot listening to this heavy metal, they're not spending money on the same kinds of things that people that listen to adult contemporary will. And you can charge advertisers more money to advertise on an adult contemporary station.
Right. And I mean, case in point, you even look later on in the film, he's selling ads during a hostage situation.
Right. Exactly. And that's, I think, sort of like what's interesting about this movie is that it does sort of give us a little bit of that.
It's telling the future, man.
Yeah.
It is literally telling the future.
Yeah. And this is why radio is completely homogenized at this point, because and everything sounds the same, right? Because you want to play the music that the most possible people will not enjoy, but will tolerate. Right.
And
Because that means
for more than a couple of minutes.
Right. Because that means that they'll be there when the ads run.
Exactly.
And that's what you want. And the more ears that you can get on that station, the more, if you can go to, fucking Ford or whatever and be like, hey, like, we are playing Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran and all of these people, right? Or, Florida, Georgia Line, whatever other bullshit is over there. And we have, 300,000 people are listening to our station every day on their drive to work. Like, you can charge a lot of money for that ad. You're never going to get those numbers with a heavy metal station.
Not really.
Not in any market, I wouldn't think. Like, well, you could get 300,000 maybe, but like in a market where 300,000 people are listening to a rock station, 1 million people are listening to the pop station.
Right, exactly. Because here's the thing, and let's just be honest, and I'm not even being a jerk because I was in that heavy metal demographic.
Right.
Most of the heavy metal guys are asleep.
Right.
At the drive in the morning. They're sleeping either because they're in bands or they're working jobs where it's going to be later, or they're not working at all.
How many of them own a car with a radio? Right. Like they're all, a lot of these guys are working like part-time jobs.
Getting the bus.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just not who you're trying to reach.
Right.
And again, Shane and Bryan are not saying that it is impossible to be successful if you are into metal music.
Absolutely not.
We're just saying that the audience for metal music is objectively much smaller than the audience for adult contemporary.
Correct. Because it's all people that are in my age range that are listening. Like, I mean, honestly, you got stations that are playing 80s and 90s stuff that I listen to because, so much better when I was a kid.
Yep.
And you get people like me that are listening to that stuff because they are disillusioned and they hate the world as it is today. So they want to listen to music that made them actually feel happy and hopeful. And guess what? We are the ones that are spending the most amount of money.
Also, iHeartRadio is able to be successful because no one is even listening to the radio to begin with. And so all of these small town radio stations are going out of business. And so iHeartRadio is able to gobble everything up.
Exactly.
And since they're recording one product at their studios in LA and they're shipping it out all over the country, then they have low overhead and they're able to charge like exorbitant prices for advertising in local markets because they've bought all the radio stations and they're the only, like, if anyone's listening to the radio, they're listening to, like you said, Bob FM, iHeartRadio, like.
Yeah.
And your audience then has gone from like 300,000 in a local market to like millions of people because you're in every major metropolitan area. You're in every region of the country.
Yeah, because like here's the thing. I listen to a station here in Pittsburgh, WDVE. I listen to them in the morning because it's the morning show. That's like the local stuff is only from 6 a.m. to like 9 p.m. and then DVE ends up just doing like, the music and stuff. But the thing is, as much as that, like WDVE is an institution in Pittsburgh since like the late 60s, right? But the thing is, there's a WDVE everywhere. iHeartRadio buys them. And then it just does the same thing. And then now iHeartRadio is trickling in their iHeartRadio music festivals and blah, 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 and all of their stuff, like you said. And then eventually your local news person is now all of a sudden an iHeartRadio person or whatever. I mean,
You're not getting the local news anymore. What you're getting is Ryan Seacrest telling you like what's going on in the world.
Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson have broken up and Pete is devastated.
And then you've got like your local meteorologist coming in for 30 seconds of weather.
And 30 seconds of traffic.
Right. And that's it. That's all you get out of the local offices.
That's all
and
you're
honestly,
getting.
The local weather and traffic people are usually television people. They're not radio people either.
Right. Like this movie legit told us what it was going to be. Like what we were, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the switch of formats over to adult contemporary was the first shoe to fall, right? And from there, it's a short walk to like the monopolizing of these different stations by a few small company or a few large companies, I should say.
Right, but they started because you figure iHeartRadio literally just started out as an app that just had, you know, its own format of different stations, sort of like what Sirius does. But then it just started. One thing to see Sirius though stayed extraterrestrial,
Right.
while iHeart, like you said, just started buying up all of the terrestrial stuff. So now the only thing you get into terrestrial radio nowadays is iHeart, Fox, CBS, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like,
ESPN,
imagine being the
ESPN.
first guy that was like, let's see. What are some adult contemporary acts that would have been big in like the early 90s, like Celine Dion and Bryan Adams?
Yeah. Well, Bryan Adams rocked in the 80s a bit.
He did, but I'm thinking like
but no, Celine Dion was always adult contemporary.
Everything I do it for you, that sort of music, right? Like
that's early 90s, right? There, early mid 90s, right there. Sting and the Police.
Yep. That Butterfly Kisses song, like Delilah, right? Did you ever listen to that show, Delilah?
Yeah, I used to listen to Delilah.
And so Delilah, like that's
and she became Radio Dear Abby.
Yeah. So like, who's the guy that was like, let's just start playing all of these like slow, like poppy ballads.
Right.
And then they got incredibly popular. And then, you know, you are fighting for market shares in these cities. Yep. And when one station becomes incredibly popular, like you want a piece of that market that they have, and you're not going to get them with Slayer, you know?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So you're going to have to start playing Celine Dion. And you're going to have to hope that your on-air talent can bridge the gap because you're all playing the same shit.
And exactly. Because I mean, I seriously feel like Randy Bauman and the crew of the DV morning show. I think that is literally like the final bastion of like morning talk radio.
Yeah.
And being interesting and different, but you can even still see, man, like they're doing their best because they got the corporate overlords breathing down their necks.
Right.
But the one cool thing they do is like, you know, they talk to the local folks. They have Billy Gardell from Mike and Molly on there like once a week, and you know, makes it really worth listening to.
Yeah.
You know, but then it's like, but I think the thing is with DVE is because DVE is one of those rare radio stations, I think, that while they do have to fall under a certain thing from corporate, they have been so ingrained into the culture of this city that if you woke up, like everyone and their mom as kids have listened to DVE. Like DVE has transcended generations.
Right.
Like my uncle was listening to DVE when like Jim Crenn was on there, and then then I come in and get to round, you know what I mean? And Randy took over from Crenn and Paulson and blah blah blah. Where if DVE were gone or we lost that particular style of format, like iHeart might as well be Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Like we would storm the castle.
Right.
So but you still have to follow the certain structure.
Right. Yeah. I would argue only at this stage in the game that the now final like frontier, like the place where people are still holding out and they're still doing the real true work of radio is college radio.
College radio and what we're doing right now, podcasts.
Right. Yeah. And on
college
podcasts,
radio
right?
and podcasts.
But college radio does play indie music and does play like little known acts, local acts. They do have on-air talent that is not dictated by a corporate overlord, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's where I would go for, like that more raw / rugged, like late 80s, early 90s radio. Yeah.
That old school feel. Yeah, absolutely. But the whole point is, and we've mainly just been talking about the death of radio, because you figure video did kill the radio. So it wasn't video that killed Radio Star. It was the corporate overlords.
Yeah, it's capitalism.
Overlords. Yeah.
Capitalism will kill almost everything.
Pretty much. And basically, and in this film, and you even hear when Brenden Fraser, who I think this is probably one of his such a great acting performance by him. because is there an actor is there another actor that comes to mind that can really chameleon Brenden? Because here's the thing, Brenden Fraser isn't a method actor.
Right.
Like, Brenden Fraser is always Brenden Fraser, except when he's Linkovich Tomatsky.
Right.
But he goes into a role, and you can see, oh yeah, I can see Brenden Fraser as a metalhead. I can also see Brenden Fraser as a Jewish guy that goes to a prep school. I can see Brenden Fraser as a Harvard student.
Who are the people that can disappear into it like that? That's a good question.
Like, Steve Buscemi can do that. Like, when I first, looking back at this movie at one point in time.
Bryan Cranston
can do that. Absolutely, Bryan Cranston can do that.
Steve Carell can do that.
Steve Carell can do that. Kevin Bacon can do that.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon does that. And Sean Astin has done that.
Right.
And who else? Corey Feldman used to be able to, before he went a little bit bonkers.
Yeah.
Could do that.
Yeah.
But
I keep hoping that we're going to find out that Feldman is doing that Joaquin Phoenix thing. He's just doing it for a decade.
Yeah. He's way more dedicated to the method than Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix gets bored. Like, his entire adult life is performance art, and we don't find out until they read his will.
Right. Meanwhile,
I've been punking y'all for 50 years.
Yeah, seriously. Did you see that performance of him? I think, was it Good Morning America?
Oh God,
that was so whoa.
It's not good.
It's not. It kind of scares me a little bit. I sent you my YouTube playlist of all the old movies that I found, right? Wasn't Rock and Roll High School Forever on that?
Maybe. It's been a long time since I looked at that list.
Dude, I'll tell you what, that movie in that era was when Corey Feldman was trying so hard to be just like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He wore his hair like him, he tried dancing like him, and it's did the people when they were rolling ever just go, Corey, can't you just be you, bro?
Right. Also, whoever his PR people are, really laid him out in front of the bus when they got him that Good Morning. Somebody in that camp needs to be bro, you need to pump the brakes on this thing.
Dude.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this. We talked about aspects of this movie, but we didn't talk.
Yeah, that's the thing, is what the movie's about is infinitely more interesting than the movie itself.
The movie itself is really fun and it's funny, but what the movie is actually about is
it's a good time. It's fun to watch. It's fun to kick back with a couple of drinks and have fun with your friends or whatever. I think Adam Sandler is good in this.
Adam Sandler is so great at this.
All three of the leads are good. I think also where Chris Farley really shines is when he's in this kind of role. He doesn't have to carry the movie.
Right. He can absolutely. He can just sort of be him, but without having to. Yeah. Because his time on screen is literally about as much as you would get him in SNL.
Right. And he's so funny in this because we don't when he's the lead or even lead adjacent, you can sometimes get a little too much Chris Farley.
Yeah, that over manic.
Yeah, but here it's totally on point, and he absolutely obliterates anybody else that he shares the screen with. He's got he's big, but he should be because he's on the screen for a very small amount of time.
Right. And I'll tell you what, even the only ones that weren't really believable, I'm pretty sure, I guess I could see where a street sergeant would be doing a lot of the talking, especially if he was able to make a rapport.
Yeah.
But I think a SWAT guy like that would have been he would have been pulled off. He would have been kicked out. He would have been sent home way quick.
This dude's definitely a cop. Or a security guard or a pencil pusher of some sort,
But Marshall Bell, man, he's been doing that forever. He has been doing that type of role forever, and we love him for it because he's so ridiculous at it that, here's some other things that Marshall Bell has been in. The great Marshall Bell.
Yes.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. He played the sadomasochist sex pervert gym teacher.
Yeah.
that when he caught his student in the bar, he took him back to school and made him run laps.
Yo, how have we still? We talk about this periodically. How have we still not done Starship Troopers?
I do not know how we have not done Starship Troopers, because we need to do Starship Troopers
Immediately.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, like tomorrow.
Yeah, right? Is it? You came up? No, it's not. It doesn't fit for our November stuff.
No, it doesn't.
We'll figure it out.
Technically, you can be thankful that you don't live in a propaganda-fueled military state.
We proposed like doing November a series of films that neither of us have seen.
Yeah, but I've seen Starship Troopers like a trillion times.
I have too.
So yeah, that won't work.
But we'll find it. We'll find.
Yeah, we'll find something. Yeah. What else? He was in Stand By Me. He played the great Will Wheaton's dad in that movie, who was a piece of crap. He was in Johnny Be Good as the police chief. Total Recall. I mean, this dude has just been in so many great movies. And he hasn't had to be... And his scene in Starship Troopers was so great. He was so great in that. But yeah, so... No, he definitely would have been tossed out. But I mean, even... Look at we definitely got the great Ernie Hudson in here as the sergeant. And then of course we got Kramer as the accountant of the radio station, and then we got Michael McKean, who is always awesome in everything he is in,
right,
as Milo, who does such a great job as like the yuppie kind of super capitalist guy that all he cares about is money. I mean, even down to the ponytail.
Yeah.
Like the ponytail and the silk shirt. Oh my God.
Stupid fucking ponytail. Like that every yuppie in every movie has ever had.
Yeah. That's not even real. Yeah. Oops.
Right.
And even, dude, the gorgeous Nina Samasco. Oh my God. I had such a crush on her as a kid. Huge crush on her as a kid.
She's a hottie. I like one of the, I think the things that made me laugh the most is when Adam Sandler
called.
Do what?
When Beavis and Butthead called.
Oh yeah, I do want to talk about that. I also really liked when Adam Sandler was talking to the black woman,
Yvonne. Yeah, he goes, "Why don't black people like me?" I mean, I know how angry you guys are because I listen to a lot of rap music. It's like, ooh, digging that hole.
Right,
out.
But then when he was like, "I hate that you guys are followed around the store like you're about to steal something," she's like, "That's never happened to me."
He's like, "Does that happen to you?" No. Look at Chaz out there doing his thing. Like he realized, like, wow. What about when he even tries to do the little mime thing where he goes outside and sees the cops is there for them, and he's every time they step, he steps and he steps back, he steps back, and he just goes.
Yeah, I mean, like the movie does have like some very funny like bits in it.
Steve Buscemi is the tough guy.
Right. Like, yeah. Oh, that scene where he's like trying to get Sandler to like put on his tough guy voice.
Yeah, he's just not getting it. He's like, "What are you, crack baby?"
Right. He's like telling him, he's like, "You got to be scary. I'm not scared." And he's like, "Well, get down, please get down."
It's like, "Come on, I'm not feeling it. I'm gonna stab you with what? With my dick."
Like, and then he like goes in on it and gives us like a little bit of that because Adam Sandler is so good at playing that like unhinged kind of angry.
Yeah.
And we got a little taste of that here.
A little bit. This was before we got Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore.
Right.
This was peak Sandler, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I mean, other than like in comedy, yeah.
Right. But I mean, but even Steve Buscemi, like you see him where he's like, he works at a toy store. Those are gone now.
Yeah.
And the guy's like,
it really is a relic.
He's like, "Rex, I'm going to tell him I'm going to be quiet. I'm out of here." Like he just doesn't care about anything. And then
I mean, they're all just like, they're all in on this little band that they've got. Some of the radio callers like that have seen them play are not big fans.
Well, it was only Beavis and Butthead that called that hated them. Like no one else had ever heard of them.
Well, that's the other thing.
Which was actually kind of cool because he's even like when Brenden Fraser's character Chaz, aka Chester, is like, you know what it's like to be on the bill and the only people that are watching you are the other bands and their girlfriends. Yeah. And it's like, dude, that spoke to me. Like that's because I've been in that band.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody came to see me even though, you know, we put up flyers and
Yeah.
stuff, and people are like, yeah, sure, I'm going to come to your show.
You know, it's a tough gig, like being an opener. Like even for big acts, like, you know, I've seen like Ben Folds and some of those guys play. And when you go to those shows, like the people are there for Ben, like they're not there
they
for
don't care about you.
whoever the opener is.
Yeah, they
So
don't care about the
through
tribute
his set, and they just don't pay attention at all, like that, or they just show up like at instead of showing up at 8, they show up at 10,
right,
for the headliner.
Right, exactly. It's like no one. It sucks when you're the opener and you put so much time, energy, and effort, and you really start to have that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? That sort of romanticized fantasy that people are going to show up and hear what you have to say and care about what you have to say. And it's like, no, you're not who we care about.
Yeah. You know, I did this this gig a few years ago. It was like it was a charity thing for they help house the homeless and that sort of thing, right? And so we were at this brewery to play, and I think we were the first band in like a bill of 5. And it was at like noon on a Saturday. Like,
wow,
at noon on a Saturday at a brewery. We drew the toughest slot. Now we weren't playing to an empty house. There were people there, but it's still like, you know, but after we hung out through a couple of other sets and like the bigger bands started playing, you know, now there's like several hundred more people, because who wants to roll out and go get it, like,
unless they're really dedicated to killing their livers, they are not showing up.
I think that the big thing was like on Saturday at noon, your biggest competition is the hangover from Friday night.
Right.
So,
and depending on the time of year, college football.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that's I
was
remember
tough, but it was fun. It was a good show.
I remember we were in a battle of the bands type of thing, and then there was a bar. I think it was down in the Strip District here in Pittsburgh. I think it was like 33rd Street Pub or something, and it was like a biker bar. I'm the only black person there. Yeah. Like, period. Not to mention the fact that I'm the front man of a band.
Right.
One of the owners like shoved the shit out of me. Because, I mean,
did they not know who you guys were? Like, did they not know anything about you when they? Oh, you had said it was a battle of the bands.
It was a battle of the bands that they were sort of hosting. So
gotcha.
Nobody was there, and I think that there was like a snowstorm like earlier on in the day, so no one was out.
Yeah.
No one gave a damn about us, and I mean, we practiced like hard as hell. We were so excited to play this place. Yeah. And they just treated us like crap. There was no one really there. So we actually took a picture of our bass player giving a middle finger, and he wrote "fuck the pub" on his hand.
Yeah.
And we put it big and huge on our website because they treated us so bad. And it's like, I don't think anyone really cared.
Right.
Like, so it's
all of those like personal rebellions that you do, right? That like mean a lot to you, but nobody gives a shit at all.
Yeah, it's like,
and that's sort of like what's going on here, except it kind of gets away from them.
Right, because so they figure, so here's the thing. So the whole thing is Rex works at a toy store. So he steals the stuff that's either discontinued or they're going to send back, or like stuff that no one's going to care about.
Right.
And among the things that he's stolen is a bunch of water guns that are being discontinued because they look too real. Because there was a point in time where kids were being murdered by cops because they would have these water guns.
Right.
And cops thought they were real.
Yeah. And that time was 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, so long ago, last week.
They made guns look worse, and cops are still shooting children.
Exactly.
So maybe the problem wasn't the toy gun.
Maybe it wasn't, no. But so basically,
toy guns don't kill children, Brian. Police officers do.
Yeah, exactly. So what they ended up doing was they filled their water guns with hot sauce.
Yeah.
And they figure, we'll just go in there, we'll take our tape, and we'll get them to play it on the air. Now, a little bit of backstory on this is that...
Cool little prank, right? Like, we like squirt a little hot sauce on them. Like,
if we have to, blah, blah, blah. We'll just tell them we were joking around. And so Brenden Fraser's character tries to go in and take his demo tape to a record company, and they already know who he is because he's done this before.
He's done it a bunch of times, right?
And basically, he runs into Judd Nelson, who plays this slimy ass record executive. He's every slimy record executive.
Yeah.
He says things like super duper, and he's totally disingenuous.
Right.
And he basically says it's unsolicited material. I can't touch it, which is actually a thing.
It's a policy for sure.
Yeah, because if they listen to it and they get an idea for another group, the other group does it better. Now they got a lawsuit on their hands.
Right.
So him and his girlfriend, now he's a dick boyfriend, but the girlfriend is kind of nuts too, because the girlfriend, she gets mad at him and starts beating him up all the time.
Uh-huh.
Played by Amy, his girlfriend's played by Amy Locane, who was also his love interest in School Ties. She's still in prison for killing someone with her car, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, DUI, homicide via DUI. So she kicks him out, throws all of his stuff out, and they get the idea. Because,
Amy Locane is in prison?
She's still, she was in prison last I saw. But they get this idea to get into the radio station because a band that got signed to a record deal that they're better than, they see themselves as better than, got their demo played by Ian the Shark, who's like the main radio guy. Like he's like the top DJ. So they get themselves into the radio station and Ian puts them on the air unbeknownst to them. And this is actually a pretty cool sort of scene here. Like, like you see Ian, he's kind of being like, he's lackadaisical. He's got his rebellion and blah, blah, blah. And Milo comes in and gets all pissed off, and Michael McKean. Then, of course, he tries getting hands on Brenden Fraser. You got to love some of the terminology. Get your hands off me, Jackson. Like some of the stuff he says is so cool.
Yeah.
And then, Steve Buscemi gets mad, pulls out the water gun that they think is a real gun, and now it turns in because everything has been on air. So now you got the hostage situation. And then it really goes south very quickly. It definitely gets away from them very fast.
It definitely does. Now talk about something that I don't know. I don't know that, like, I don't know how this plays if this is like a more
real
contemporary
life
film. I feel like today, I mean, I guess they could get those. Like, I'm thinking most of these places have like metal detectors you have to go through.
I don't think. Here's the thing: is that a lot of these places are in like office buildings now, where you got to get past security.
Right.
Like they're not in standalone buildings anymore.
Right.
So it's not so much that they've got metal detectors. It's kind of like how that record company was.
Yeah.
They're gonna get past security first.
They're gonna have to do a pat down.
And then
and not an ocular pat down.
No. And then you've got a code that you have to, like, a code to get in, kind of like what they got past. But if it's in an office building, it's going to be way harder than if it's a standalone building.
Yeah, or if it's a school.
Right, exactly. So I don't know if this would work unless they were friends with someone that worked there.
Right.
But that's kind of how they got in anyway.
Yeah, and then like homie starts talking to him on the air, which is kind of cool too.
Right.
And like the community really like shows up for them because they're like doing some like hard shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's so metal.
Well, I think a lot of it though is too, because I mean, you figure.
Well, they're fighting the man, right? Like that's what's metal about it.
You're fighting the man, and this is rebellion, and plus a lot of people. I bet you a lot of them showed up. Man, the cops are gonna waste these guys. I want to be here to see that.
For sure, that's part of it, right? Is that like morbid curiosity?
Right, but then they start getting into it.
And then you have two approaches to like the negotiations, right? Like you have the one guy that's like legitimately trying to negotiate, and then the other guy comes up and
gives Kramer of all people a gun.
Right.
Because they find pool equipment and his wife's cheating on him with a pool cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Like, and they have a guy in the air vents that they can that they send a real gun in with.
Right. And then when they discover that it's a fake gun because they're getting all their stuff, and the one black guy who has been like having issues with Steve Buscemi the whole time decks him and takes off running, and they get away. And of course you get the bit of the comedy where the cops attack the black guy and not the white guy.
Yeah.
And then, they start to move in, and then Ian the Shark hits the real gun out of the guy's hand, and it starts shooting and blah, blah, blah. It's, wow. Like, this movie gets really wild really quick.
It does. And it's cool because it's all localized for the most part. After like the first 15 minutes or so, like it's all localized inside of this one building.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And I kind of think it's kind of funny, though. Remember when they tried to get Harold Ramis to come in like he's an actual record producer? I'm like, of all people, Harold Ramis is not someone that I would see as like a record. Like, it's obvious that and they did that for a reason, because that just goes to show how out of touch the cops are.
Right.
Like, no kid is going to believe.
Right.
But he tried to hold his own. It's
like that Steve Buscemi meme where he's got the backwards baseball cap and he's like, hello, fellow high schoolers.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. He's like, whose side did you take in the big Van Halen Roth split? Huh? Whose side did you take, Van Halen or Roth? Van Halen, he's a cop.
That's so good.
That's purely subjective. They sold a lot of records after Dave left the group. Like,
right.
Come on, man.
Then we can talk a little bit about the Beavis and Butthead bit.
Yeah, that was great. Like, they're having everything go on as if it's just like a regular radio thing. Like,
right.
They're doing giveaways, taking callers, then Beavis and Butthead calls, and of course, there's always that one person that calls into the radio station as their radio up too loud, and the radio personality wants to cuss them out because it hurts. And then hey, you guys are the Lone Rangers, right? We saw you guys play at the Wilwell. You guys suck.
Right.
Yeah. Why don't you come down here and say that? It's too, like, that just goes to show, man, Beavis and Butthead were everywhere.
They were a cultural phenomenon, much like South Park was whenever it first came out.
And South Park still is. I mean, they're not anywhere near as big as they used to be because they become so ingrained in our culture.
Yeah.
That they just are. But, I mean, even Beavis and Butthead, their comeback has been... I've been enjoying these newer episodes of Beavis and Butthead.
I have not watched any of them.
I like them a lot better than the previous attempt at a reboot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because the previous reboot just kind of sucked. Where this one, it's almost like they've gone back to formula, but they're not just watching music videos; they're watching like TikTok videos and stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, I do need to watch this. We also heard that we're going to get a King of the Hill reboot with the original folks coming back.
Well, except for Brittany Murphy.
Right, but it's going to have a time jump.
See, here's my thing. If we can't, I don't want them... Here's my issue with the idea of that. I would want Luann, but Brittany Murphy is dead. Mm-hmm. No one else can be Luann to me, because it's just going to feel weird. It's kind of like these sitcoms that replace a character with someone else. Like, look at Last Man Standing. They replace original Mandy with some other girl. Yeah. And it just didn't fit. It didn't fit for me, at least. Like, I quit watching after Molly Aframe didn't come back. I stopped watching that show. It had nothing to do with the more right-wing political leanings of Tim Allen. Yeah. Because that wasn't a main part of the show. And he had left-wing foils that kind of evened it out. It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, that show had a lot of issues, and he tried to play victim because of all of that stuff. And that just...
It's like,
it just felt really disingenuous. There were a lot of issues with that.
The show just ran its course.
Well, and at some point around season 5 of any show, it starts to become more expensive to make it. And if you don't have the audience to justify, I mean, it's the conversation that we were having earlier about adult contemporary, right?
Right, exactly.
Like, who's watching the most television, right? Like, you can have a Tim Allen show for a few years because the audience is there for it, but at some point, it's like all those contracts are going to be renegotiated. And if they're going to sign on for 4 more years, then they're going to want more money.
Right.
And the audience is not big enough for seasons 6 through 9 of a Tim Allen show. They're big enough for seasons 1 through 5 of a Tim Allen show.
That's about it. So, and that's why you even look like that. I think that's why Cobra Kai has become such a phenomenon because it is as popular now as it was in season 1.
Right.
And people are clamoring. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But they even said they went out to tell a story over a 6-season arc.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think that's perfect. I think that if you're going to come up with a new show,
that's what Breaking Bad did.
Yeah. Better Call Saul's sort of done the same thing.
Yeah. And I appreciate those networks that, and I feel like Netflix will do this with Cobra Kai as they are with Stranger Things. like allow these creators to tell their complete story. Don't force them to go longer than they have designs to, but don't cut them short either, especially if they're successful.
Yeah, Netflix is finally getting better with that in a lot of ways, but they're also trimming the fat on certain things too.
I think that's smart because there was a lot of fat for a little while.
Way too much. But so the whole thing with this film, as we sort of jump back to it, is like I said though, this movie, it's almost like it predicted what 28 years later was going to be.
Yeah,
it really has, and now, granted, the way it ends up, like it ends up being a happy ending. You know, they get the record contract. Yeah, for 6 months.
Yeah, which isn't terrible, and they got out for 3, like after 3.
Yeah, and they went triple platinum.
Yeah,
but the one thing that I really do kind of appreciated though was like how Chaz was not like he always had his eye on the prize, because even like you see the scene where Rex goes, we want a record contract, so get a record executive. He's like, why the hell are you doing that? It has to be unsolicited or this was pointless.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because this is a guy who's really is all about the music.
Yeah. Well, and then whenever they bring in the PA and everything to let them play their song, and they realize that the only thing actually powered is the PA, and they were just going to lip sync the track.
And he was like, and even like Rex and Pip, who are kind of just like, they're followers. They follow Chaz as their leader,
right?
But they also have principles, and I think that's why this trio is such a strong trio. They have their principles, even though they sort of get lost in some of it. Yeah. Like, man, when this starts happening to us and blah blah blah, and Chaz goes, dude, that's your problem. You want everything to happen to you,
right?
You have to make it happen,
right?
That's what makes him such an amazing character.
I like that.
I would love to see a movie of them like 30 years later. I really would like to see a 30 years later, what's happening with the Lone Rangers 30 years later.
Yeah.
Because because like these are compelling characters. And then,
it would be called Airheads Reunion Tour.
I think so.
Because they definitely break up after they get a little success, you know?
Well, I don't think they so much break up. I think because Chaz even said, I'm normal enough that I can write one song that'll live forever. He has no mindset that he's going to be like this forever rock god.
Right.
He doesn't. So, but yeah, when they discover that it's just going to be a music video and blah, 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 he's like, nah, we're not doing this.
Right.
And then everyone
they do the most metal shit ever, which is record a live album in prison.
Right. And they freaking like destroy the set, everything, but people still love the song anyway. But they're also, I think they're loving the fact that they're being metal.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, isn't that something though that we as a society, maybe not metal, but being real, like not falling into corporate greed.
Yeah. We also like to watch the destruction of property.
Hey man, I like seeing people destroy their guitars, and it's like, I wouldn't do that to mine, but go ahead and break yours. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Especially since somebody just gave it to you and it's a prop.
Right. Like I remember I was playing a show and this dude got drunk as hell, and he was cheating on his girlfriend with some other girl.
Yeah.
And when she found out, she started cheating with on him.
Uh-huh.
And the guy happened to show up.
Ah.
And the girlfriend was there. She showed up with the guy, I guess. And he got mad, got super drunk, and destroyed his guitar mid-set. And it's like, do you feel better? Like, did this help you feel like a better person?
Right.
Because you were the dick that cheated on her first, and now you have a broken guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And your set is going to suck because you're without a guitar.
Right.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Let's see. Airheads did not do well at the box office. $11.2 million budget, only made half of it back, 5.8.
So that's bullcrap.
Well, you make this same movie like 3 years later with the same cast, and it does a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely having Sandler in the main cast would definitely make it do better.
Because this is his first foray into film,
correct,
right? Or is Going Overboard his first?
I think Going Overboard was first.
And it was awful.
Dude, that movie is just poo diddly oo.
Yep.
Poodly oo. Actually, no, Going Overboard, and then his little cameo in Coneheads.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was his first sort of starring vehicle
after going overboard, which is again not good.
It was Dookie in so many different levels.
Dookie Howser,
Dookie Howser, indeed.
Then let's see. The other thing that we would that I would point out is that it has a pretty low tomato meter score, 29%. But that's based on very few reviews.
38
it's
reviews.
An older movie.
And I think
audience score is 50%.
And this isn't a movie that's for everybody. Like,
right.
You have to have grown up in this time period to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You also have to love the three leads. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to be able to deconstruct it because there is a bit more going on in this movie than what's happening on film.
Yeah, the general consensus with the the critic consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is there's a biting satire that keeps threatening to burst out of the well-cast Airheads, but unfortunately the end result lives down to its title in the most unfortunate ways. And I can sort of see that. Like, it is really close to being pretty profound. It just doesn't ever quite stick the landing for me.
See, it does for me because, or maybe that's my kind of humor. That's my kind of film.
Oh, the humor is fine. It's the satire part that, like, it gets so dangerously close to making a comment about corporate greed in the radio industry, right? And it just doesn't quite get there, or music as a whole, right? And it just doesn't quite get there, I think.
See, I disagree. I feel like it does. I feel like it for much of the reasons that we talked about in the first 20 minutes of this, it does it. Absolutely. It's just, I think the reason why people miss it, and I mean, I can understand why people do miss it. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of how in some instances it is kind of unbelievable in certain instances. And I think that's why it misses it. I think the happy ending is part of the reason why people feel like it misses it.
Yeah.
But it feels like you can't have these guys get gunned down, though. You can't have them killed.
Right.
Either. And once again, though, but it also proves the point, Jimmy Wing was right. Rock stars don't often go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they even bring up the whole thing with Vince Neil. You know, like, and they didn't kill anyone. They went in there with water pistols. They can definitely prove that they didn't show up with that M4.
Yeah.
That wasn't on them.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, there's not, like, they're just basically guilty of having a stupid idea. That's about it. And spraying someone in the eyes with pepper spray. That's really what got them.
I mean, they did take hostages.
Yeah, but
I mean, false pretenses or not, that's still taking hostages.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, if you're a DA and you get this, you're going to want to hammer them, but then it's going to be like, do I really want to waste time, energy, and effort on something like this when no one was really in any serious danger?
For sure.
Except for what the cops caused.
Right.
No.
For sure.
No. So I think that's the problem. I think that the happy ending is probably why people feel like it didn't stick the landing well.
Maybe.
But I feel like this movie did everything that it was supposed to do. It did everything that it set out to do. And it exposed how these industries, music and radio, that were supposed to be sort of your last bastion away from a capitalist regime, have been taken over.
Yeah.
And I've said this, and you and I have had this conversation. I've told you this many times, and I've been saying this for the last 20 years. If Kurt Cobain doesn't die, I feel like the music industry looks a lot differently.
Yeah, maybe.
And in turn, the radio industry might look a lot different.
Nah,
but
capitalism was coming for it all.
That's true.
Capitalism came for Kurt Cobain.
That's true. We need a zombie apocalypse.
All right. Well, let's get Bartender Smiley in here, and we will.
Let's have it.
All right.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
It's a 2 for me, dog. It's fine.
Jesus, you're doing your great Randy Jackson impression. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Like, I had a good time. It was funny. It just wasn't anything special to me. That's all. Like, I didn't watch it when I was younger. Like, I was in fourth grade when this movie came out.
Quit making me feel so old. What the hell is wrong with you?
Sorry.
Jesus.
I was just like, I feel like I just like missed it the first time around, and it just doesn't resonate for me in the same way, I think. And that's and it's
fine.
okay that it resonates differently for you, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I would watch it again. I had a good time.
Yeah, this is a fun movie. This is a movie that you can put on that is just, it's simple.
Yeah.
You can just enjoy it. See,
for sure.
For me, I give this, am I going to call this a perfect film? No, because for various reasons. But
it's not perfect is the main one.
It isn't perfect. But I give this a very, very, very strong one-shot rating. An extremely strong one-shot rating for me. I'm sorry. That homegirl would have gotten charges for kicking the cop in the balls.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. She should have gotten charges.
Civilian Review would have, would Chris Farley have gotten in trouble for tearing dude's nipple ring off?
Yeah, he would have also gotten in trouble.
He would have gotten in trouble for that, but that's not.
But only like paid leave of absence.
Paid administrative leave. Yeah. Listen, this is why it's not polite to take someone's nipple ring off.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, honestly, it's a one-shot rating for me. This is like, I was 15 when this movie came out. The soundtrack is a banger. Like, the song Degenerated, I really wish they actually had like Brenden Fraser on lead vocals for it on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because the song is just banging. I'm sorry. And the movie starts out with some awesome ass Motorhead with Ice-T.
Yeah.
Dude, check out this soundtrack. If you got Spotify, put in Airheads soundtrack and just rock out. This definitely has to be a part of any sort of 90s movie fest that you need to get in on. This is it, because this movie is deliciously 90s.
It's very 90s for sure.
It is super 90s.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some of the language is a little bit problematic.
Yeah.
But it was the 90s.
Yeah. All right. Well, then next week we'll wrap things up and start things up with Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny.
This is going to be an interesting watch because I've never seen this before. And
I mean, I enjoy this movie, but I also really like Tenacious D.
See,
and I think that the music, like the story, I believe that the story is weak, but I think that the music is very good.
See, Tenacious D, I have to be in a particular mood for them.
Yeah.
But I always have time for Jack Black, the actor.
Yeah. No, I enjoy the movie. I think that I watched it a few years ago and I still enjoyed it. I think it'll be a good time.
All right. And then, of course, so after next week's episode, we're going to be going into Jack Black Timber, and it's just going to be all Jack Black for the next couple of weeks. Let's see let me see. It's going to be Shallow Hal. What else were we doing?
I don't know. We'll have to come up with the list again.
Yeah. Oh,
Saving Silverman.
Saving Silverman. Is that first and then Shallow Hal or Shallow Hal?
I think so. I think it's
Saving Silverman first, yeah, and then Shallow Hal.
I think we're gonna do Goosebumps.
Yeah, the Goosebumps, and then one of the Jumanji movies. Did we talk about it?
Yeah.
Did we mention maybe?
Yeah, we did mention that. Yeah, and I'm here for that.
Yeah, and then in October, Listener's Choice Halloween. And
we're doing it again.
Yep, it's in some of these movies. We keep putting them out there because whatever doesn't get picked, it just gets thrown right back into rotation with some newbies sort of thrown in. So maybe this year we'll actually get to do Return of the Living Dead.
Maybe.
Maybe. Probably not. But maybe. But maybe.
But maybe.
But maybe. And then maybe at some point, maybe we'll get to Starship Troopers. Maybe. Because I think November did we decide we're going to do movies that we haven't seen?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I don't know that we've really said yes or no.
We're kicking those tires. We'll see. But I mean, either way, there ain't no turkeys.
Did we do Evil Dead 2 last year?
Yeah, we did. I believe.
Okay, I'm updating the list. I'm cleaning it up.
Yeah, but I tell you what, there are no turkeys in Clondathu, so that's
no. There ain't no turkeys up here, man.
that was probably my favorite line of
No,
any
that's a good
Thanksgiving movie.
That is a good line for sure. Just for the sake of conversation, the movies that are still on the Halloween list are Us, The Blob, Paranormal Activity, Insidious, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Angel Heart, Friday the 13th, Return of the Living Dead, Fallen, Green Room, Tales from the Hood, Candyman, Critters, Cabin Fever, and Near Dark.
Nice. That is a nice little setup right there.
Yeah, and currently have 5 open slots to fill between now and then.
Yeah, so you guys start thinking about what you guys might want to hear. Leave us a message on the tweet machine at Plotaholics. Hit us up on Facebook, Plotaholics, or shoot us an email, plotaholicspodcast@gmail.com. If you've got any ideas based on that, or is there, what we usually do every year is that we put some polls up on the Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
And you guys vote for what you want, and the top 5 vote getters are the ones that we do, because we did one year sort of do it via genre, and then we decided that's just too much work.
Yeah, for sure. So
we don't have an intern yet. So.
Yeah. Otherwise, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, etc. We thank you for hanging out and listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye!
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of 2. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.